Oh, hi! My name is Ryland, and I'm a scientist all alone on a suicide mission. I'm just gonna check out what's on the other side of this tube that I have almost no light to see, and meet something that nothing the human race that we know about has ever seen before. Huh, look at those hexagons! Hello, and welcome back to the couch! We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're checking out Chapter 9 of Project Hail Mary. Once again, trailer came out a couple of weeks ago. All the comments were like, yo, you gotta read this book. So we're doing it. We're reading this book. Chapter 9 is phenomenal. It's just the moment before the moment, right? This is the calm before the storm. This is the moment. Also, we get a new addition to Strat's Avengers. And he's hilarious. I love him. So anyway, we're gonna start from the beginning of the chapter. I think if I were to put sum this chapter up in one word, it would be the moment where Han Solo says, "Here's where the fun begins." It's about to get weird. So at the beginning of the chapter, after grappling with if it's a good idea to mess around with aliens and that the Earth's fate is in Ryland's hands, and he realizes, nope, this is a good idea. Overall, he doesn't even have a protocol for what he's even supposed to be doing there. He doesn't even know. But what he does know is that these aliens also have experience with astrophage, right? That's how they communicated immediately. It is essential that for the sake of the Earth, Ryland at this point at least tries to have a conversation, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. And so now he's had to figure out, how are they going to attach this tube to the hull? Well, I didn't know what they had in terms of that container until I looked at it. So they're going to need to know what I have. So he has a bright idea. I'm going to go outside. Bright idea. And cut a hole 6 inches, or cut a piece off of the ship and send it over to them. This reminded me of like the Challenger explosion or something else that was of that level. That's insane. Because what if you need that to protect? Okay, whatever. So he climbs out. He puts a tool belt on it. I imagine in my mind's eye he's wearing this EVA suit, but he puts the tool belt on like he's Batman, and he's carrying his tools out there. And he goes and he literally cuts a 6-inch portion of the ship off. And he almost loses it. He does grab it, and he's like, holy crap, I almost jumped into space. Thank God he was tethered. But then he tosses it over to them, climbs back into the ship, undresses, goes and gets some food for the burrito, goes and gets some food. He gets a burrito, so we're eating real meals now. And he realizes it's cold, and so he uses the lab furnace to heat up his burrito. Hilarious. He also sets while he's doing that, he sets the proximity alarm from the radar from where it was to just shy of the current distance of their ship and the Hail Mary, so that, if they get any closer, he'll be alarmed. He'll be notified by it while he's going and getting some food and chilling out after his spacewalk adventure. I'm telling you, the spacewalk stuff freaks me out. I'm pretty happy that Weir kind of speeds through that, because that's the part that gets me. I'm like, ugh. Imagine. So scary. So then Ryland, though, while he's eating, has a flashback to, I wonder if there's something inside the food that's causing the flashbacks to happen. Probably not. It's probably just a coincidence. But he goes, he flashes back to a moment when he and Strat meet the next part of her Avengers, this team that she's assembled. And this guy is named Dmitri, and he's a Russian scientist and engineer. And they meet up with him at first, and he's jovial and fun, kind of the opposite of Dr. Loken. And he goes to meet Dmitri, but he doesn't want to give up any of his cultivated astrophage. He's only made so much, and he has to give up like a third of it or something. And so he goes and meets him, and he hands it to them, and they take them on to they take them into this room on the ship that the Russians are using. And in this room, there's a vacuumed room. Within this room, there's a vacuum room and a little container not container. Well, I bet it looks like a container that's strapped to wires and everything. but essentially a device. And he pops it open, and there's this revolver inside, and it revolves around. And Dmitri, the Russian scientist, begins to explain how astrophage will enter into the revolver, because it looks like a triangle. It will enter into the revolver, rotate as they demonstrate light at the frequencies that they know, the CO2 light. And once the astrophage moves out, utilizing its energy to move out of the revolver, it will revolve. It will revolve again and again, and then the device will clean off that section on the outside here, and then it will revolve again as they add more astrophage. It'll just move in a circular motion. At least that's what it looks like to me when you describe a revolver. I imagine a circle and triangles. I wish there was an image of this too, because I would have liked to have been able to see this. So they begin their test, and so Ryland, Strat, and everybody, they move outside of the vacuum space. They've got the device in the middle of a table, and it's pointed toward a metal slab, right? And they get ready to run their test. They announce everybody, we're testing. They push the button, and like a second goes by, and they're like, oh, what happened? And they're like, we just ran the test. I was like, okay. So they turn on a camera inside this room, and Dmitri then begins to flex all over. He begins to flex all over Ryland. He was like, yes, we used 20 micrograms of astrophage. And it created, what did he say? 60,000 newtons of force in creating 8 billion joules of light energy. 8 billion in a 1,000th of 1 second. Is it 1,000th? 1 microsecond. That's 1/10,000th of 1 second. And it melted a metric ton of metal. These things are no joke. This is real deal fuel here, ladies and gentlemen. Very cool. It's kind of funny because Dimitri's like, how far are we from land? And Strat's like, I don't know, like 300 kilometers. And he's like, all right, good. Because he knew that the amount of force that could be created by this astrophage was out of this world, ironically. And so Ryland acknowledges how powerful this is and how kind of crazy this is, and they determine also in this scene that they don't want one massive spin drive in case it fails. They're going to use like 100, 110, 120 little spin drives, because they can regulate how much is being used at any given time by anyone. They said basically the rotation would be every 4 seconds, and that 4-second bursts would help to run and modulate the speed and engine. Very, very thoughtful. Dmitri was like, no, we're going to have a bunch of little ones and not one big one. What if it fails? And we can modulate it to compensate. If like 10 of them fail, we can just make the other ones work harder. Very smart. So then Ryland comes back to the current time, and he was like, oh, so that's how the spin drives work. To nobody, because there's no one there. He actually says it out loud, which is kind of hilarious. And he continues to eat his burrito, but then the proximity alarm goes off, right? And the alien ship is maneuvering itself so that it can extend this tube to the airlock where Ryland's been coming in and out of in his EVA suit. So Ryland jumps in his EVA suit as quick as possible and starts looking at the scopes, and the scopes are showing that there's arms coming out of the tubes at the airlock that are attaching to the outside of the hull. He assumes that it's an adhesive, and that it's some sort of adhesive thing, and that the tube is then pressurized. So there's some adhesive thing going on, and his tube's pressurized, and so he's going to be able to open the door and walk out into this, or maneuver out into this tube with the suit on. And it's pressurized, so he'll be able to use the environment within the Hail Mary to flood the tube if he needs to. So he goes into the tube, he hears the pressurization, he sees that there's a wall connecting the two tube areas, right in the middle, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna turn the air on. So he turns the air on as if to communicate, this is what I breathe, this is who I am, this is what's going on. And then he jumps out of the suit. And while he's looking around, obviously there's no light in this tube. While he's looking around, he's utilizing the light from the helmets. I imagine a horror movie, actually. In my mind, it's a horror movie. And he sees that the wall that's separating both halves of the tube is covered in hexagons. And they're different colors, and some are translucent. And he begins to kind of try to memorize, okay, what does this mean? What are these things? And he's looking, and then the next thing he hears is end of chapter. Weir, you're in your bag right now. Yeah, that was the end of the chapter. I almost kept reading and just said, screw it, I'm just gonna keep going. But I didn't. I promise. Knock, knock, knock. I don't know. So Ryland is so thoughtful, and there's a lot of like fun humor and cynicism in this book, and in these characters. It's funny to me, the knock, if you were in a different mindset, this would be a horror story, like Alien, like, honestly. But the vibe is so genuine and earnest and thoughtful, and it's really cool that that's the case. But yeah, this is the whole calm before the storm. This is the chapter where things stop getting polite and start getting real. And we're now going to have a full, I mean, it was already sci-fi before, but now we're getting into the full sci-fi fantasy part, where it's backed by science, it's backed by facts, it's backed by figures, it's backed by theories that brilliant people have come up with. But now we're getting into like they're gonna have an actual conversation where I imagine they wave goofy at each other, because they did that again in this chapter. It's interesting, repeating who you're talking to as a form of communication, like we're on the same wavelength, is interesting. Because I don't communicate like that. I have ADHD, so I communicate in metaphor and experiences, right? Which is annoying. I even recognize how annoying it is. But their communication has solely been, I do this, you do this. You know, even. Fascinating. I can't imagine, like, my anxiety would have me eating all the food in that. You know what I mean? Like, it would be crazy. It would be crazy. And I like where Weir's like, you know, because it's a 400 and some odd page book. He's kind of like making sure we're not getting stuck on the things that we would get stuck on, like the EVA suit taking on and, you know, taking it off, putting it on. Like the now transitions from gravity to non-gravity. But no, I think we're going to see chapter 10. We're going to meet an alien. I'm interested also to see who the next addition to Strat's Avengers are. Strat's team of crackpot Avenger people, because we got Dr. Loken, who is Swedish or Middle European, and then now we've got Dmitri, who is a Russian scientist. I wonder if we're going to meet anyone else from the ship, if we're going to get a Chinese representative, because China's already played a largish role in the book, and then China played a large role in the Martian. I wonder if we're going to get another American. But yeah, I love how charming this chapter is. This chapter is extremely charming. Strat's charming. She's like, is that a lot of force? And Ryland's like, that's the most amount of force you can measure that we've ever measured at that moment, at that time. Fucking wild. Ooh, really wild. Sorry. But that's all I've got for you. Look, I'm having a great time, and if you want to follow along, there is a link to the description to Amazon in the description. You can buy the book. It'll help me out. And you can go chapter by chapter with me. or you can just read it yourself. The audiobook apparently is phenomenal. And so, yeah, just jump in with me. I think it's going to be a good time. And we'll just keep trudging along. And I say trudging lightly. I mean, there's 31 chapters, and this is what, chapter 9? So we still have two-thirds of a book to go, which is insane to me. But can't wait to see what we're going to deal with. I can't wait to see if the heat's an issue or communicating is an issue, if they use some sort of sign language, or if there's some sort of like a verbal thing. I'm just excited. I'm excited. So I'm going to jump into the next chapter while you guys have a great rest of your day. Later, taters.